episode 6 of the Mighty Nein was just released, and it was good, but it had one little thing that kept it from being great as we wanted it to be.
Yeah, I'm gonna get into what I liked about this episode. So I was not expecting it to be as good as it was, because last week's episode for me dropped a little bit. So this episode starts in a big way. It opens up with this big sequence of all sorts of stuff happening. And I wasn't expecting that. I'm a big fan of when things open up that way. It just sets the tone. So how many of you have seen Bram Stoker's Dracula? It just reminds me of that kind of opening sequence where it's just big and epic. I was a big fan of that. So for the episode to start off that way, it was a win-win for me.
Yeah, I agree with Edward, and that ties into our daily dose of dork knowledge today. Is with that character, her name is Yasha. Originally, she was friends with Molly, and she was originally part of his circus troupe before they rewrote some things for this show. This episode does seem to focus a lot more on world building and character development, with some story aspects going on the side, but the main characters really aren't at the story part yet. I did enjoy a lot of the world building. I think whenever we see Nathan Fillion, it's a win. I love Nathan Fillion. He's great at everything. I also really enjoyed the character development as we got a lot more time here, especially with Beauregard. As before, Beauregard has been mainly the plot-driving character. And before, I wasn't as huge of a fan of hers just because she felt to be dragged down a little bit by the plot while every other character is getting their development and introduction. So I like how they spent some of that time here to give her that necessary development here. I really enjoyed Caleb. I liked the action in this episode. I like how this one felt a lot more like classic D&D, where you have the combat, the humor, the traps, the puzzles. Whereas like the D&D movie that was released a couple of years back, my biggest issue with that is it didn't really feel too much like D&D. It had like some of the components, but it's still missing that oomph. Whereas I think this show definitely picks up on it. And I really enjoyed their whole dungeon delving, their treasure hunt. I thought that was a lot of fun. I liked how we got a lot of the plot to continue. Again, our main characters aren't necessarily there yet, but we're starting to see this war between the Empire and the Creek Dynasty. I really enjoyed it. I liked seeing the reverse gravity. I liked seeing Essex reveal to his friend. I also like seeing how now power hungry the king's going to be. I think that's going to be so much fun. There is one big issue I've been having this issue since episode 1, is with Yasha. Yasha in episode 1 of the show, we got to see her at the end of the episode, almost like a stinger of what's to come. But then we haven't seen her once since until this episode, 5 episodes later. And I just wish that stinger episode 1 was either in the previous episode, or, this is ideally in my opinion, each episode ends with the scene of Yasha building her up, maybe even to like whatever journey she's on to this moment. Because I think then if we already know a bit about the character, then seeing her introductions to everyone else and seeing their conflict would be great. It's just, why do we have to wait 5 episodes to get to this point when I feel like many have forgotten about her and you could have hyped her up so much more than you have?
Yeah, for me, and I do understand Griffin's point of view. I've never been a fan of when characters show up very briefly. I hate it more so in movies, because with a TV show, at least you're like, hopefully I'll get to see her next episode. But with a movie, if you see a character that you wanted to see, or a legacy character or a beloved character very briefly, unless you get a sequel, you're pretty much screwed. Here, I do get his point. My issue with the episode is not that, though. So we open with a bang. It's just such a big opening sequence. And then it just kind of drops off into, I get it, this kind of side quest, adventure type thing. I kind of feel about it and I'm curious as to how they're going to handle it in the upcoming Legend of Zelda movie, because every time, and I've played the majority of the Zelda games, every time I'm in a dungeon, I'm having the best time. But when I'm in between dungeons, those little things that you have to go do, like find a piece of the heart or go to some Kakariko village and talk to some, that's when I'm like, oh man, this is lame. So here, they do go off on the side quest where they have to go do something, and it is important. It just, the momentum just drops from the opening sequence. That was my issue with it. And there came a point where I was like, man, I'm starting to get bored. And then the end happened, and the end sequence is as good, if not better, than the opening sequence. And that did save the episode for me.
So then I guess my question to you, then to you in the comments as well, is are you still excited for next episode?
Yeah, without a doubt. Even so, with last week's episode, which again I didn't think was the greatest, I'm still invested in these characters. I like this world, man. Again, I know
It's
I've said
fun.
this numerous times, but elves, magic, and swords, I'm there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Let us know what you thought about episode 6 of the Mighty Nine. And make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, as next week we are reviewing episode 7 of the Mighty Nine, Avatar Fire and Ash, as well as Fallout Season 2, episode 1.